Hey there, welcome to the Be More podcast. I'm Brittany,
I'm Maria.
and I did that backwards. That was my bad.
It's okay. I completely forgot what our intro was after not filming like consecutively for the past like
Yes,
month.
I know. Apologies on that. I got a booster shot last week, right before the weekend, and
Uh-huh.
it completely laid me out.
The booster was not fun. I'm gonna tell you that. I got that probably late January, early February maybe. And I was out for like 2 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been that sick before that I like
From a
actively
shot.
remember. I just in general, I've never had that many fevers in my life. I didn't know what my body didn't know what to do with itself. It was
Not fun.
absolutely devastating on my body, and my body is, I think today it's been a solid week. I'm still trying to recover from it. You know
Did you
how,
also did you also get that like stomach bug that's going around?
well, I think I've gotten a collection of all the things that could, you know how when you're dealing with anything in your life, your body, we've talked about this before, your body, when you ignore what your body needs or you just keep running after whatever you're running after, your body does what it has to do to get you there, and then afterwards it just like
Yeah, it just crashes. Yeah,
so I think that I wasn't tuned in with where I was in my life cycles
yeah.
and made a poor decision on getting my booster at the time of my life that I did.
Oh, that your body
Because
just shut down
a lot of things were
everywhere.
coming to an end.
Ah, got
And
it, got
so
it.
I think that it just set, I think the booster knocked out my immune system and my whole body. And this just allowed me to get everything afterwards. Because I got a sinus infection and I had major allergy issues. And then like my stomach is like starting to recover from like it just everything happened at once.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what I think happened. But I haven't actually had a stomach bug, so cross your fingers.
I had that a couple weeks ago. It was not fun.
Oh.
Yeah, that took me out a couple days too. That was awful.
It's fun adjusting to being a human again and
Yeah.
in this, I think it's just a funny time for us to go back to not wearing masks with the seasons changing. I feel like that was, I mean, regardless of whether you were wearing a mask or when you weren't wearing a mask, but for me as a person to go back to, I
Mm-hmm.
still have situations where I find myself choosing to wear a mask and that may never change, but
Yeah.
the exposure to not only the germs of others, but like allergy season and the seasons changing all at once is just a lot to ask of your body. So
Mm-hmm.
tis what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Exactly.
Um, but okay, so here's the ready for my tangent of my brain. It's something that I'm having a moment of rethinking, and if you are unsure of what that is, go back and listen to the last episode we recorded. But it's fun when things spark my rethinking.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how we were talking a while back about like we wanted to ask a question at the beginning of episodes and we brought on a guest?
Oh yeah, this was a while ago. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and in case you're wondering, we do have more guests that are coming in the future. We're just still planning out scheduling things.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's something to look forward to. But I was thinking to myself, what did we say that we were going to ask? It was something around like, how are you feeling about the world, the state of the world right now? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, to that yeah context. Yeah, something like
So
that.
I have been kind of listening to and diving into. We've talked about, I mean, you've definitely noticed and have brought it up, and maybe our listeners have noticed it too, how
Hmm.
I hate using the word unstable to define it, but because it's not, when we talk about emotional instability, we talk it, or we say you're emotionally unstable or you're emotionally stable. It makes it seem like there's one that's better than the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's not to say that one's better than the other. I'm learning about a new term for it called agility versus stability.
Like agile.
Yeah, like you're because the truth of the matter is nothing in the world that we live in is stable or controllable. So why would your
Mm-hmm.
emotions be?
Um, I'm sure it's just like the societal standard.
Right, right.
That's what that
And
is.
then which is what brings about the potential for us to be able to talk about, toxic positivity and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But So I've been learning a lot about that agility and trying to reshape all of the way that society has shaped my negative thinking about my ability to process my emotions, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
truth of the matter, right? It's not necessarily, there's never a day where I'm emotionally stable to the fact of like I'm one emotion all day,
Uh-huh. Right.
right?
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
you're constantly navigating that changing of emotions because we need those emotions to inform us about what's going on in the world. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at the world right now, the world is a shit show, friend.
That's it's
So
not fun out there. Yeah.
you have to have, and I literally am picturing myself like going through this funny like emotional obstacle course, like those ninja courses. Like we have to be agile in being able to adapt to all of those emotions that we're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because there is perpetual instability in dealing with your mindset or dealing with the emotions that are coming, because there's always new information coming at you.
Right.
Makes sense.
No, that makes sense. You're literally just taking whatever you learned 5 seconds ago and like every like an infinite amount of times, however many, times per second, like you're constantly changing is
Yeah,
what
right?
you're saying.
Right,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
have to be the fact that we have to attach ourselves to this level of like saying that something is stable and then having any sense of, it creates this false reality of the fact that there is going to be some type of permanence in the way that we're going to feel, and that it like continues to make us say like that happiness is not fleeting, right? It makes us think that we should be striving for positive all the time and happiness all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that a week ago would have been what I believed because of the way society has shaped that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm realizing, like, literally right this second, that's why I deal with the level of struggle that I deal with in my mental health, because I'm trying to set myself up to a standard that's not realistic.
Yeah, standard's different for everyone. Like,
Right.
like my standard isn't like contentment.
Right. But
It's
also,
like
like,
as close as I can get to contentment every day, but like that's
right.
not the
And it's,
societal standard,
and
you
you
know?
can't, that's like that blissful, joyous sense of happiness isn't, it's not sustainable. Emotion, like that emotion is not sustainable, right? And then when we try to make
Yeah.
these comparisons of like trying to reframe where we are in reality versus where we should be, or like trying to make other people comfortable with our like discomfort or unhappiness, we create this really toxic culture. So leading back to my initial thought, I we've talked about how this podcast is like really developing into something where our goal is to just have more sense of awareness, and an awareness that shines light on like truth of reality for us as individuals, and like for reality of like the human experience. So I was thinking to myself, like, instead of, what if the way that we came on this podcast for even the two of us, or when we bring on guests, is if we ask people what are they feeling right now, right? Like, and then also what are you feeling in relation to the world, but like what are you actually feeling? And
Mm-hmm.
I started off on this whole tangent of thinking, is it, and I don't know the answer to this, I have to do a lot of research now, is it I don't want to say correct, but when we ask people about their feelings, how do we generally state the question?
How are you?
Right, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
And I feel like, is that the right way to ask the question? Because people usually respond, right? People who are not, maybe don't have that sense of awareness, or people who feel like they need to make other people feel comfortable, and this is totally me, in the way that they respond, are most likely going to either say good,
Mm-hmm.
or instead of wanting to say bad, right? They'll say fine or I'm okay, right? But like, we, with that, also connect a level of like hierarchy between it being a good or bad, right? And then what emotions or feelings are actually associated with those two words, and then we deem those feelings as good versus bad. When, how do you deem an emotion as a good or a bad thing? like they're all the same. They're all good because they all give your body information about what's going on and help you manage wherever you are in your experience. Do you see, and this is the tangent I went on, and this is what, while Maria logged on, I was like Google searching real quick to see, like, should we really be asking, and I don't know what the answer is, this is just my general, should we really be asking people how they are feeling, or should we be asking people what they are feeling?
Depends on the context.
Okay,
Like,
say more.
like if my boss is like, "What are you feeling?" in the middle of my workday, I'm gonna be like, "You really want me to go into what I'm feeling?" Like,
But
it's more about a convenience. I feel like
I
it's just
know.
like it's really just like again, work. I'm just taking the work versus personal because that's the easiest thing to like
Yeah.
whatever. Like work is just like you can hop on a call and like, "Oh, how are you?" Just like because it's like the societal norm to ask how people are, even though you really don't need the answer.
I know. It's just like a buffer of conversation, and it's not like this is a part of the problem, right? So I
What problem though? I don't see a problem with that. I just think it's just like society, just a literally a buffer of like, hi, how are you? Okay, let's get to work.
I don't okay, so in a professional setting, I understand that you can't have the conversations of like speaking in
You
depth
could if
your
I mean you could if you
emotions.
wanted to.
If
I've
you
had those
have a
conversations. Yeah.
or if you have a like you said, like you if your boss was to do that, you might not, have a space for that. That's not
Depending on the person asking. Yeah, correct.
most spaces.
Yeah.
But the problem that I have with it is that, and I'm going to look at this from myself, I have been shaped to, in those moments, give a response that changes the reality of what I'm actually experiencing to give an answer that makes the other person feel comfortable.
I
And that
think go no, go ahead.
bothers
Finish it.
me. That, and
Yeah, I get that.
for me as a person, and again, everybody's different. For me as a person, this is still a problem with the whole like fake it till you make it, or like that disingenuine truth of trying to be something other that I'm not, and like all the issues that I've struggled with over the years in trying to set a standard to be like a happy bubbly person even if I'm not always a happy bubbly person, if that makes
No, that's
sense.
fair. Uh, don't fake it anymore. I started doing that.
I'm getting there. It's just
Yeah,
still
it's still a hassle.
interesting to understand the foundations of these things. And like I mean still discovering and going to be discovering for the rest of my life, but it's interesting for me to realize that
Hmm.
my personal struggles with dealing with like honestly a lot of my personal struggles with like feeling anxious or feeling depressed in social settings or not wanting to engage comes from the fact that I've been programmed to like my programming is conflicting now, right? Because I don't want to have to bullshit, but I've been programmed to bullshit.
Then you just have to find a way to like connect the two.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
and when we've talked about this before too, right? Like especially in like work and professional situations where we have to maneuver that where it's not going to be a place where it's okay. And I have gotten, and through our podcast definitely I've gotten so much better at not bullshitting on a lot of fronts, even in professional settings.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the anxieties and some of the issues that younger generations are facing, they're dealing with it at a, like 100% plus what we're dealing with because we are it's frustrating and really hard to look at for myself because I went through all of those practices of being like, oh, well, what can you be grateful for? And like, what are the good things? And remember when we started talking about the whole Russian-Ukrainian war and how I was feeling that heaviness of guilt because I was like, oh, I have all of this good stuff. And like, we
Hmm.
make this a reality for ourselves. I've made this a reality for myself that I feel guilty because my bad isn't as bad as someone else's bad, right? Because we start to say we we put ourselves in a box or in a pedestal of like the wishful thinking about what our life looks like at its best, and we compare that to somebody else's at their worst. And I'm
And like
through all of this, you know?
it's not, yeah, I mean, then again, the same thing, like someone's standard isn't the same as your standard, right?
Right,
Like
right.
you, like your trauma isn't the same as someone else's trauma, and like that
Yeah.
should be like just like a few, I don't know how many episodes ago, like trauma shouldn't be like a hierarchy. It should just be like a blob. Like, oh, here's trauma.
Something that we all experience and we all
Yeah, like it
have to
doesn't
deal
have to
with.
be like, it doesn't have to be like death and destruction versus like I can't get out of bed. Like
But
this.
and right, but that's the it doesn't have to be that way. And I totally believe that. And I'm coming into that now. But it's super hard when you've been programmed for something else and you didn't even have like conscious awareness of the fact that
Right.
you're programmed for something else.
Right.
So,
And I'm not saying like, or like, I'm not
no,
like,
like there's
I don't,
empathy. We've talked about that. Like you have
right.
empathy.
Like it sucks. Everything sucks. Like there's nothing I can do about it, but the only
Right.
thing I can deal with is myself,
Right.
you know?
And then it's when you're, and this is me speaking from my experience, like when your engagement in a situation like that leaves you in a personal struggle with yourself, like that's not a healthy thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be fighting yourself because of something that's going on, and like you're connecting how you're engaging with whatever's going on in the rest of the world. And this is something that, like I said, I've been thinking about the last like couple of weeks, and I'm realizing for myself that I have to literally pull the roots out, like pull the weeds out, so to speak. Not
Yeah.
that they're a bad thing, we need weeds. But like pull the weeds out on this like bullshit that I'm so deeply programmed into that, all of these years of me learning about myself, I still didn't have a full picture of understanding how it was impacting me until like now I'm starting to realize it. So so I would love, and you can tell me my long rant. I would love for us to, and if you're not okay with this, we still don't have to do this, but for us to, when we like start the podcast, to address each other and really ask like, what are you feeling,
Yeah,
and
that's
each
fine.
other space to like say the word, like
Yeah.
words, like the actual stuff.
Yeah, that's fine with me. This is now a brainstorming session, a live brainstorming session for
Yeah,
the
you
pod.
guys. But you're seeing like this is fun because you're seeing like the back end. Um,
No, that's
I
fine. I have no problem with that. I
okay.
think it's more for you than me.
No, I mean I think and there's a reason why I wanted to ask you while we were
Yeah, of course.
like recording, because and I want to invite other people into this, into to making, we've talked about like safe spaces and we've talked about having the room to acknowledge, and it's just like, if you're someone who's listening to this, when we ask each other that question, like I hope that you take a second for yourself and go, what am I feeling right now?
Hmm.
To, if this podcast is going to be about raising awareness, we do a lot of raising awareness of ourselves and a lot of raising awareness about like the world, but how do we actually make things that are literally applicable tasks to do that while you're in conversation with us,
No, that makes sense.
you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I really think it's just like uh the nuanced difference between how are you and how you're feeling. It's very nuanced if you don't understand the nuance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There
So
doesn't
like
necessarily be a difference.
right, and like I guess phrasing it in the latter way makes it easier to understand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm down. That's fine.
It's funny because I mean, I think one of the only reasons why I have this curiosity
Hmm.
when I work with people in, I do a lot of work with people in movement, but I also do a lot of work with people in trying to raise their awareness of their bodies with movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I always ask those two questions very distinctively.
Okay.
Ask, what are you feeling, when I want people to raise their awareness of their body? and I ask, how are you feeling, when I want people to raise their like their emotional awareness. But if a if all if all feelings are like tangible things, right? Like you feel pain, you feel hunger, like you feel sad. Like it's a physical, it like physically comes up in your body, right? And it could be from crying, it could be any of those things. Can't like why do they have to be two different questions? And is how more of like a deeper cognitive question of like emotion versus
What?
feeling.
I was like, versus what instead of how?
Right, like the two, like if you if someone is to ask you, okay, how are you feeling today, right? I usually will ask people how they're feeling after we're done with like a going through
Yeah.
a whole session of movement,
Yeah.
to have that like mind body connection awareness. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if there's a difference, and like I don't know, but I don't I am now going to ask people, I think, going forward, just as like a little like social experiment, what are you feeling, instead of how. It's gonna be really hard to change like that, like you said, that like little buffer that we automatically throw out because it's just what we do. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think I'm gonna try to start saying what.
Like, hi, what are you feeling? Like instead of how
Yeah,
are you? People
yeah,
are gonna get thrown off for
I
sure.
know, I know.
They're gonna be thrown off, be like, what do you
Why are
mean?
you
Like,
asking me that way? And I'll be
yeah.
like,
Wanna know.
I don't want you, because you want to know why. If I ask somebody what are you feeling,
It's more direct.
they can't say good.
Well, yeah, it's also more
They
direct.
can't say fine. Right. And you know how I feel about being blunt
Yeah,
and
because
direct.
what means is what sounds more
It's
direct.
got to be like more definitive and more descriptive than just a
Yeah, because
generalization.
like what are you feeling? I'm fine. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't
you
make
can't say that. It
it
doesn't.
doesn't make
That's
logical
not a
sense. Yeah.
exactly.
And
I
it's not
think
like
that would be what.
tired or like, content or whatever.
Yeah, like you have to be more descriptive, and then I think also in that way, this obviously there's a place for this. Obviously, I can't necessarily in the middle of like a meeting be like, "What are you feeling today?" But in the moments, because that's not the point of why we're in a conversation. But in the moments when I'm talking to somebody who I do want to connect to, right? Like I'm having food, or I'm like,
Hmm.
with somebody that I like care about and want to connect to in that way. I'm gonna say, "What are you feeling?" Because then there's more to have a conversation back afterwards after they answer.
Right, as opposed to just like a it's just saying hi
It's
is
like
the extension. Yeah.
yeah, really. It's just like an additional extent of.
Same thing with like
There's a
how's it
word.
go?
There's like a term for that. I can't think of what it is. Those
Okay.
pleasantries.
Yeah, it's same thing as like how's it going?
Right.
Good.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
Like
it's not.
you? Like how are you? Like
And what's really started my thought on this was I was having a conversation with somebody who I worked with, one of like the major projects that I was on.
Mhm.
And I hadn't talked to them in like a week or two, and we were together, and we like they asked me like, how's it going, like how are you, and I like didn't know how to respond, because I like that's how I've been. I'm like not sure, so I didn't know how to respond because I am close enough to this person to tell them the truth. And I was just like, I'm here. We're taking it day by day. And like they are understandable and relatable to that. But I thought to myself, like, how are, like, you know what I mean? Like, how friggin' are you really?
Mhm.
Not a
Mhm.
thing that we ask ourselves. Like, and if we do ask ourselves, it's in like this weird, I'm just gonna say fucked up, like funnel of filter of how we're supposed to do it or something. Like it's not genuine. So yeah, I don't know. So tell me what you're feeling, Maria. What are you feeling today? Or right now, I guess.
Um tired. Uh indifferent, but also like somewhat content. So like it runs the gamut.
Yeah. And they're allowed to be conflicting.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think people are like you're either happy or sad, but you could be both.
Oh, totally.
Or you
Like,
could also be indifferent
friends
and also
comes in,
feeling
right? Like that's where
yeah,
friends comes
I'm
in.
also indifferent but can feel other things. Like it's just like it runs the gamut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you. I agree with you. I'm so, like I so guys, if you don't follow Maria on her Instagram, she's been posting so many pictures of her desk.
Yeah, I have a second Instagram or like my other yeah, the Instagram that I tagged on to our Instagram, be more underscore podcast. Um I have another side project coming up soon. That's why I'm posting again.
Well, no, that's good. That's awesome. I've seen you be like
Yeah.
doing that, but I was talking about how you've been just sitting at like your work desk, not your
Yeah, I'm literally
gaming, just like all of the work hours that you've been putting in lately.
oh that. Yes, yes. Yeah, and that yeah, cuz tax season. Yeah, work has been that's why I'm like tired, like
Right.
physically.
That's why I brought it up.
Um because it's coming to the end of busy season somehow, some way. So now it's all like hell week this past week. So I actually took a break this weekend
Good for you.
from like working because I clocked a bunch of hours. So I was like, I can't if it does because like oh, my mentality is like if it can wait another day, it'll wait. Why push myself to work, another day on a Saturday or Sunday if I can wait till Monday? So there's where there's what
That
I
is
hope.
a concept that I am very slowly starting to bring in for myself, being the overachiever that I am.
Right, like it's hard. It's difficult
Yeah, it is
because like
hard.
I used to just clock hours, but like really like what is that doing for me?
Yeah.
Like if I
I
can literally wait another day, it'll wait another day.
yeah, like and I again, like I say this all the time, like I always come back to you're like the rail's not gonna burn down. Um,
Hmm.
which sounds
Literally.
ridiculous, but I being the ridiculous person that my brain functions in the state of ridiculous and extreme, so I need that like level of extreme to give me a sense of reality. But
Hmm.
I watched this Insta reel
Hmm.
where like it's some like psychologist because I'm a nerd, and
Hmm.
she was talking about how in like when people look at like their schedules of how they keep themselves busy and how we bring about our own anxieties is we create these like you know how I feel about to-do lists. We create
Hmm.
to-do lists of having to accomplish like multiple things in a day,
Right.
and we place so much judgment on ourselves about our ability to do those things in a day, and like blah, all that stuff. And she like talked about how as a human, like as a person, anytime that you have more than 3 things on your to-do list, like you're already setting yourself up for dysfunction and despair
Yeah.
and frustration. And I had a moment where I was like, wait, like 3 things in total? Like
Yeah.
things that's it? Like that's all
Yeah.
I should do 3 things. And it was like she was talking about it in reference to she wasn't generally very specific about like 3 things of like work or 3 things in life or whatever types of tasks you need to get done. But I started shifting the way that I think about like to-do lists and what has to get done to every time I do, regardless, every time I do something that in some way, shape or form like moves me closer to whatever goals I'm working on, that counts as one thing.
Hmm.
And if I do 3 of those things in one day, and then I do other things that remember how we talked about like the plus one minus one concept,
Hmm. Yeah.
having a good day or a bad day, and
Hmm.
then like the rest of my day is just me living my life,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And like it doesn't have to be deemed as a task, then like that's a good day, Brittany. So I started,
Yeah.
especially after getting sick, and like literally,
Yeah.
I am so hard on myself when I get sick and I can't do anything, which is grotesque. But
Yeah. That's you should listen to your body.
yeah, um, I started like I'm starting to reframe the way I'm thinking about like my daily life and the fact that like just those you can do 3 things. You can do 3 things, and it could be folding your friggin' laundry. It could be one of your like major tasks. So sometimes for me that is a major task, or it could be
Hmm.
something related to work. It could be like for me it'd be like could be seeing a client. It could be working on anything. Like 3 things a day.
Yeah, and that's like it. That's really all you need.
And my anxiety levels have like
Dropped.
plus I've been like meditating and trying to, you know, do all this stuff with like processing my emotions. Um, but my anxiety levels are like abysmal now.
Yeah, like seeing a to-do list is sometimes helpful, but agreed, like just taking this menial task, like once you hit 5 or more, my brain is like, how the hell are you gonna do all this shit today?
Yeah, yeah.
And like, it's not, you shouldn't be thinking that way. It should be like, because I get very detailed on my to-do list, very like, okay, instead of like 3 clients, I do the 3 clients and then like 10 things under those clients. I'm like, no, you could
Hmm.
just like leave it at the clients that you're gonna work on
Yep. Yep.
and then leave it at that. But instead, like it gets to a degree where it's like anxiety inducing.
Yeah, and it's so it's real
But
it's
yeah,
go ahead, say your bet.
no, but like the 3 things is like perfect.
Right? And I am a very big believer in the importance of like the number three. And we've talked about that in like superstitious stuff before and like the power, like all of the like I think that three is the shape in my brain. I think like three is the shape of the number of corners a triangle has, and a triangle is the most stable shape in the universe. So three is like gonna be my thing. Um I was also born on the 13th of 1993, so I have like wonderful connections to that number, but I digress. Um, it's crazy how, like, guys, Maria and I are about to be 29.
Hmm.
Sorry for that reality check for you, but
Oh,
I
I
tell
don't.
myself,
Age is just a number.
I tell myself all the time, and I remind myself how, like, your body is gonna age and do stuff or whatever, but your brain is like really age is only a number, and like I going through things like these where I'm learning these things, like these new things about how to help my freaking self, Jesus, which we don't do enough of as we're growing up. It's I feel like I'm being like not like in a born again Christian type of way, but I feel like I'm learning to live again. Like I'm learning about life and myself all over again. And it's so
Question.
which
Sorry.
on you. It has helped me. One of the things that I've been feeling pretty consistently over the last week after feeling like I was finally gonna not be sick anymore is hopeful.
Okay, that's good.
Right? I think so.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
that's where I'm at. So like if and you know what, it's so funny because being anybody who deals with any type of I mean being a human who has to actually deal with mental health, it's I know that like I might not feel hopeful tomorrow and that's totally fine. But whenever we can restore our ability to have some level of hope or faith or
Hmm.
belief in something, it's not to say that, you know, you're not dealing with shit, right? Because I'm also
Right.
feeling like I'm also still definitely feeling I'm actually for once not feeling tired. So something I'm doing is working. So I'm not emotionally and like physically bogged down. But I definitely still have this like and this is something I have to keep figuring out what this emotion actually is. I definitely have this feeling of something heavier than that hope that I'm balancing out at the same time. So
So wait, you feel something heavier? Is
yeah,
that what
like
you
I
just said?
feel I feel hopeful, but
But also something heavier
there's something weighted,
in that hope, or something completely different?
no, like separate from that hope.
Yeah. Okay.
That feel that's also something that I'm feeling. So they're a little bit like yin and
Probably just
yang each
probably
other
just your
right now.
probably just your trauma, just trying to like trying to unravel.
Be like, girl, remember where you at?
Yeah.
Um,
Remember, there's shit you have to unpack here. That's probably
so
that.
it probably is that.
Because I
So,
get that. I
and
get that
it's
all the
not
time.
to say like, and they can exist together. Like if
Yeah.
this for me, even having that and like needing to check in with it every once in a while, like can still be a good day for me, right? Can still be a +1
Yeah.
day for me. Um, so just all of this is just always so fascinating for me. In another world, I am like a psychology something, like a psychologist in some way, shape, or form. But I don't think I would see people. I'd just be a researcher on all of it because I think it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're gonna do. When we come on to these episodes, we're gonna have moments where we ask each other what we are feeling. And if
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk through things, we talk through things. But I hope too that if you are listening to the podcast, that it gives you a moment to check into what you are feeling and makes a space for you to feel safe and actually being able to do that. And over time, right? Like in another year from now, when we come back and we listen to the podcast, it will show people as a literal like proof of like concept that there is no such thing as emotional stability.
Oh, yeah. I would hope that shows that, you know?
So we're turning this into like a research. Like this is my
It's like psychological
hypothesis is
research for Brittany.
that emotional stability does not exist, and
Oh, I don't think it exists. Yeah.
our our ability to do this will be proof for that.
Right. Yeah. We can say it's science. Like we can. The hypothesis is that we don't think it exists, and then the proof is the throughout time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except I don't know. It'll be funny because I don't know if that heavy feeling's probably not going to go away. So there's gonna,
Yeah, that's a whole different. Well, that's a different
but
thing.
that's a different thing because that's related to trauma and past experience and not in present moment. And
Yeah,
that's
that's like your
the
subconscious.
present moment.
It's your subconscious, whatever, whatever the
Yeah, that's what we're here. We're
consciousness,
talking about the conscious
the consciousness. Yeah.
experience is lacking of emotional stability.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is fun. I hope that this is interesting to someone who listens to this, and maybe you're as nerdy as I am and all on board for this. But regardless, I'm really excited about the sense of clarity that we had in previous conversations where, or at least that I had, where I was like, oh God, that's the point of this podcast. Like we're doing this because it's about awareness. Like that's literally the point. Be more about awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah.
And more
Period.
space for it to happen and study it more. I love it.
Interesting. Yep. Great.
Alrighty, well, I think that's it.
Cool. Hopefully we're gonna get back to a consistent schedule. Hopefully we're all not sick
Yeah.
anymore. Knock on wood.
And next week will be super fun because I'll have, we might have to do, we'll talk about this later, but I'll have, next week is the first time since the pandemic that I get to go and like spend time with my nephews and my brother's family, like out
Oh, nice.
for multiple days since the pandemic happened. Isn't that crazy?
That's great.
It is
That's
great.
great. It's been a while. Shit.
It has been a while, so I'm sure I'll have fun, lots of fun stories. And you know how nothing shakes your whole perspective on everything about life, like spending multiple days in a row with children under the age
Children.
of 10. So, and children,
Yeah.
it's so I think that'll be some fun stuff for us to bring into the conversation too.
Great. Well, I can't wait for you to experience
Thanks.
that.
Well, I can't wait for you to be done with your Hell Week so that you can go
I
back.
should be. Yeah, I should be fine going forward. I
Cool.
expect maybe one more or two more Saturdays
No, that's
working,
fun. I didn't
and
mean I
like
wasn't
that's
talking
it.
about scheduling. I was talking about self for
Oh
six.
no, yeah, that aids to that, or like
Yeah,
hinder, whatever the word is. Like the fact that I have to work 6 days a week isn't helping.
yeah.
So I'm estimating
Definitely
making one
helps.
or two more weeks, and then I'll be fine.
We'll
That's
make it
all.
work. And maybe you
Yeah.
can relate to either side of what we're both experiencing too. So if you're in the like the grit part of what you're doing with work,
Good luck. You'll make it through. That's all.
yeah, take it day by day.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
exactly.
guys so much for listening to me go on a tangent and taking an inside look at the inner workings of the chaos that is the inside of my mind. And I hope you take a moment to check in with yourself at what you're feeling today and you're okay with where you are, wherever that might be. And tomorrow, try to do the same thing. The more you do it, the more awareness you build and the better off you'll be. So that's going to be our end. Don't be afraid to raise your awareness of what you're feeling because even though it's scary, it really is the key to unlocking your most fulfilled and your best life.
Damn. Okay, bye.